slightly younger. So we said, well, we'll do some research. And we had a look at, interviewed indeed, people who had been sort of pioneers. Some of them were pioneers. We did things in the 1970s and the 1980s, and we made some pieces, very short pieces around that. Some of them are verbatim, meaning they're the actual words of the people, and I'll introduce you to them as we go along. This is a little medley, really. It begins with a comic sketch, and then it gets a little bit more serious as we take the real voices of the people and feed them back to you. And we hope at the end then to open it out to people in the room to maybe share some of your own recollections or memories from the 40 years that are behind us, that we're celebrating. So if we think about beginning in the 70s, a time of radical social change, when the department was set up by the two Liams and influenced hugely, and still is, it's wonderful to see, by thinking from Latin America in the form of Paulo Freire, the word radical comes up again and again and again and again, going back to roots and also changing what's growing from those roots. The impact of that kind of radical change over the whole country is huge, and I think we really underestimate it, but I think you'll see by this last piece tonight, when we do our little piece, what it means on a personal level. So I forgot my glasses, so I have no idea what I'm now wearing glasses. Another stutter. So in the 70s, I remember being when I did the HDIP in Adult Community Education in 1987, because I didn't want to do the HDIP in other education. Couldn't see myself in a school, so I drifted into this other one, and really it was like being set on fire. And after that, Mary Ryan whisked me aside and sent me to do extramural courses around the country. And I really remember trying to find places. My God, they were in the most remote places. and coming up hills in the rain, you know, and finding a sort of a half-decent shed. And you go inside and there's 40 people in there, and they've been there for like weeks, and they're coming religiously, and they're talking about ideas that I've just encountered in the university. It was amazing. So our first little piece brings us back to a flavour of the 1970s, when, as my recollection and talking to people was that it was mostly women who started off doing the courses, and most of the great revolutions, I suppose, might be thought of, the ground ones anyway, to be initiated by women in quiet ways, but nonetheless sure-footed ways. So how did they get to the courses? And we imagined that there would have been a man driving, and he mightn't necessarily know exactly where she was going, but this was the fog and the rain trying to find a place.
I don't know where we are. The weather is horrible.
Oh, stop whinging. You'll be home in an hour with a cup of tea.
What did you say the name of the place was again?
Ballymalone Hall.
Ballymalone?
Yeah.
Who's ever even heard of Ballymalone?
I haven't a clue.
Here.
I think that church up there, you go right, you see it?
We've already gone right at that church.
We'll try again, we're obviously not going the right.
There's an oil crisis on, woman. I don't have the petrol to be spending doing circuits like this.
Well, pull over and ask someone.
No, we're fine.
No, I don't want to be late, this is very important. Pull over.
Alright, fine. It's horrible. Anyway, I'm looking for a place. What was it called again?
Ballymalone Hall.
Ballymalone Hall, do you know it?
Oh no, what is going on?
Okay, so straight ahead. Left at the gate. Watch out for Tony, he might jump in any moment. Alright, Grant. Okay, alright, Grant, thank you very much. See you now. So what kind of course is it anyway?
It's a self-development course.
A what? what?
It's to like develop yourself as a person. I don't know, I just thought it looked interesting, so I put my name down.
Does the parish know about this?
Well, I don't know if they're involved, but it's run by St. Patrick's University in Maynooth. You know the one?
Is it that Tom Collins chap?
No, I don't think
Don't know
so.
about that now. And tell me, how long does it go on for?
12 weeks every Thursday.
Every Thursday for 12 weeks. That'll bring us right into calving season. I can't be gallivanting on out in the hills every week.
Well, if you have a problem with it, I can ask Bridgie to bring me down.
Bridgie who?
Bridgie McDonald.
She's doing a self-development course. And is Jeremy driving her every week?
Well, I assume so. She can't drive herself.
Don't know about that now altogether. Here's the hill now. Is that the hall there? Here, I'll pull it.
Oh, yes, it is.
Go on and ask. Ask the woman if that's it. Out there, yeah.
Sorry, is
that
this
it?
the Ballymalone Hall?
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Where do you...
Also, of course, it's not just in personal development, but in more radical, I suppose, social activism at the heart of stuff. Community development courses, ideas that were changing communities as well as people. And one particular person, a radio interview we found about somebody who was remembering doing such a course. We took parts of it and used it as a verbatim performance here.
When I started my course, I had a small interest in social activism. Although when I told my friends and family, I remember they thought that I was getting fit. Activism. You can't blame them, I suppose. But I think I was just so interested in like the community development part of it. I wanted to prepare the people of my town for the future as opposed to now, the time that we're in now. And as a result of that, I helped bringing in the Maynooth to facilitate a training program for activists on both sides of the border, which was a pretty radical thing considering that was in the wake of the Good Friday Agreement. But back to 1979, I remember going into the class and thinking, I hope they have the same mentality as me. And they didn't. And everyone was just so completely different. And when I say completely different, Jesus, I mean completely different. I mean, there was a priest and a feminist. And they were constantly at loggerheads at each other. But I think that was one of the things that I really loved about the place. I mean, I loved the sharing of opinions and constantly challenging each other's views. Now, don't get me wrong, I remember on the first night while I was walking up outside the cold white building that's a branch off the town hall, I stood there for about 5 minutes thinking, is this really something I should do? I mean, I could go on and live my life and it would be grand. And I could live my life with my family and have a grand life. But do I want that? And I didn't just want a grand life, I wanted everyone around me to have a good life and to be happy. And I thought, why not stop there? Why not make the country happy? And now, I thought I had the power to change everything, but if I didn't have the power, at least I had the energy to kind of put my efforts in and help. And that's really what I wanted to be a part of. Not just a field of study, but a field of provision. But anyway, I remember it started to lash raining and there was a big brown door and I remember opening it and there was just a circle of people and I guess you could say that's where I started the rest of my life.
This course is outside of the university. There were mature students in the university here as well. Very, very few in the early days, and the department was responsible for helping to support them. But at this time there was no AINFAS, no NALA. They were all organisations, along with mature student support organisation, that the department helped to set up. So we had an interview with somebody that we know who was one of the very first mature students in this university, and Darius is going to verbatim reproduce his words, tones, pauses, all of that, and we added into little excerpt, little pieces into it.
You know, it's pretty tricky to be in a class where there's 20 young ones, 10 years in between you, you know. It's alright though, you know, we're past the first year, and I'm doing English and history, so it's we're well in there. You know, you make friends along the way. Still, you're always constantly trying to fit in. You know, you'd be in the class and you put your hand up, and you know, you might have 1 question, 2 questions, 3 questions, 5 questions sometimes. And I remember actually, I put my hand up once and I said, sorry, you know the 1640s revolutions, do you think that had anything to do with the rise of capitalism?
I'm so hungover.
Just take down the notes.
You can tell he's the mature student.
That's actually not a bad question.
And actually, you know, I said I need to catch up with my mate, so I gave Kevin a shout and I said, listen here, let's go down for a pint. It's been 2 years. We decided to go for a pint, and I just wanted to let him know about what we're doing in the university. So he tells me,
You know, man, I was talking to the lads and we're all saying it's not a bit embarrassing, you know, going back to school. Like, university isn't really for the likes of us, is it?
what do you mean, likes of us? Like who?
It's for doctors and lawyers. University is a young man's game.
I know. I've saved a lot of money, and this is what I want to do, and it's time for me to do something for myself.
You've changed, man. Like, this is the first time we've been out in ages. I mean, it's embarrassing. You never come out. I haven't seen you at the football in ages. You need to come out and be one of the lads again.
I know. I just need to do this for myself. It's something I always wanted to do. Well, I mean, you know, not being great in school and all, and now I have the chance, so I want to do it now.
All I'm saying is, people are talking about you, and it's not good.
You know, I do sometimes wonder, I'm in the class and I'm like, God, it is true though, maybe there's a scientific explanation. They are, you know, younger and they're much quicker at grasping things, and I just feel like I'm always 10 steps behind them, you know. But, you know, I'll work at it, and I'll get it, I'll do some extra work outside college, and I'll be on the same level as them. The one thing though, it's that support I need in the university itself. There's no resources, no support there to, you know, to give me. But I'll make something out of this. It's going to be good.
Things have changed immensely. There are places reserved, obviously, for mature students in nearly all of colleges and institutions at the third level at this stage, and support groups. And we have Kilkenny campus, which was opened by the department here as well, and facilitated mature learners returning to college today. So moving through the years into the 90s then, we had Maynooth extramural still, they were called courses, but continuing education courses organised by an upsurge in programmes like VITAS centres opening around the country, and they facilitated the provision of some of the extramural courses. And I remember one of my first jobs after doing the Certificate in Adult Community Education diploma was in VITAS, one of the first VITASes in fact, in Newbridge. And I think Anne O'Brien is here as well, who ran the first one. Is that right, Anne?
Yes.
Yes, the first one in Tallaght. Yeah. And we were shortly afterwards in Newbridge, and that's how I got to know you. I remember the first session, and where it was for long-term unemployed people, and they had all, some of them been sent here, but some of them chose to come along. They really had no idea what was ahead. And we were gathered in a circle, and we've been talking about what they expected and so on. And what kind of course they were choosing to do. So based on some of my memories, we just have a little activity that replays some of those moments. Well, as I said before the break, you're all very welcome, and I think probably that some of you already know each other around. Do you? Does anyone know somebody else from here?
I'm outside. Smoke.
Yeah, in the hallway there. Yeah. Anybody else know? All new to each other? Okay. Well, maybe we just have a moment to say, you know, who you are, and a little bit about maybe why did you come on to this particular course. Anybody like to start? Okay, Winnie.
Hi, I'm Winnie, and I'm just glad to be here. At the time, I was really shy, 23-year-old, recently married, no kids at the time, and I decided to do a course with Maynooth in business studies and ended up getting a job in marketing. I'm just, that's really it.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. That's great, Winnie. And what about is it Francis? How about you?
Yeah, I've been long-term unemployed. Social welfare kind of pushed me here. I have a wife. I've got 2 daughters. I did not want to be here. I did the course anyway. I got an interest in computers, and I went to Carlow IT, and I actually got a degree in computers, which was cool. And I set up my own business, computer software, and thankfully it was successful, so I actually got to send my 2 daughters through college, and now they have degrees. I don't know what I'm going to get from this.
Well, who knows? I mean, we see. Thanks for that. And who we got over here?
I'm Bridgie.
Bridgie, how are you?
I'm a traveller, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to stick this out. I did stick it out. I did a course in youth work, and I got a degree in youth work, and now I work with young traveller girls in the community, and I try to help them to get a full education and give them the same opportunities that I had.
Well, it's very funny.
And that's it, really.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And this is Christopher. Christy.
Well, I did my leaving cert. Thought I'd go into the workforce from there. It didn't really happen. I guess, I don't know, I just thought I'd come here for an opportunity to. I didn't really want to say it at the time, but in my gap after leaving cert, I became interested in activism. I was a bit embarrassed at the time, but I just really liked this idea of being able to change the world around me, have an effect on the world around me. And I just felt like I didn't really have the support, I didn't really have the knowledge to do so. I heard that Maynooth were setting up a course nearby, so I came to the course. I went to that course for a year. I learned amazing things, not just from the classes. I learned how to work with people, and I learned how to solve problems. After my first year, I got a work experience with Troker, which completely opened my eyes to social justice, and I now work as a part of an advisory body to local policymakers. So I'm just hoping it'll make me a little bit more employable, to be honest.
Very good. Excellent. And finally we have Mikey.
I'm Mikey, and my wife told me about this thing, and she was like, "Go and give it a try." And I was like, "Okay, I'll see how I get on." When I started the Vitas, I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. I mean, the whole thing was just a big question mark. And then before I knew it, within the first 6 months, I had so much knowledge about so many different things I had no clue of. My whole perspective just was broadened out of nowhere, and I had different opinions on different things. I was communicating with different people. I learned a lot about communicating with people, and I started to discover new interests, things that I had never come across before. At the time, I was with my wife, and we split within the first 4 months. I think part of that had something to do with my personal development, and that I was looking at the world differently, and I was looking at myself differently. Now I'm with another person and a wife, and with 2 kids, and it's and yeah, I don't think I'm going to get much out of this.
I mean, none of us know, because it's so new, we don't really have an idea where you end up afterwards, but let's see how we go as we continue. So earlier on this morning we just introduced a bit about the program, and we'll talk a bit about more. Has anybody got any questions? So that brings us up to the 2000s, and in the 2000s we had really established adult education and its principles and ideas and philosophies in a lot of segments in Irish culture and Irish society. There's still a lot to go, and still is a lot to go in terms of this kind of education, this kind of experiential work and community development based education, particularly in